Welcome, madam.
Thank you, Mr. Miles, aka Village.
Okay, cool, guys. Those of you that are joining, just by way of introduction. So, over the past week, I received quite a few questions regarding HR, employee and employer rights in terms of leave, especially for the 21-day lockdown period. Of course, we all know last week, Monday, or this week, Monday, the president said that 21 days of lockdown, companies must close, non-essential companies must close. And I thought it'd be a good idea to find out what are the rights of employees. Can companies force you to take annual leave? What are the options if you go on to unpaid leave? And I wanted to, so I came across Marizaan Bredenkamp. She's got her own HR company here in Paarl. And by way of introduction, Marizaan, can you please just introduce yourself? Tell us why you're doing HR, how long you're doing HR, and yeah, then we can just start the conversation.
Okay. Yeah, it's always difficult for me to talk about myself. I normally speak on behalf of other people, either companies or employees. So I'm going to try my best. I'm Marizaan Bredenkamp, happily married, 2 children. And then I have a company, Unite360 South Africa. It's a HR and say legislative type of companies that assists companies with various products, specifically in the HR field. The reason why I started my own organization, if I can just explain the name, Unite360. So the Unite in the company's name is all about unity, so unifying products in the organization, unifying people, unifying management with employees, unifying systems, programs, unifying products, policies and procedures, and just overall unity in everything that gets done in an organization. And then the 360 is about taking an holistic approach in the organization, because the world of HR has changed so much from being an administrative function to being involved in operations and strategic planning, and really assisting and trying to get to the health of the organization. And that is where I feel that I can play a bigger role in South Africa in terms of assisting employers as well as employees by just educating them to work more smart, better, simpler, saving cost, and basically unifying everything. Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. Thank you, owner of Unite360. So I sent you a few questions regarding some of the queries that came through this week. And I think the main one was, I'm sure you have the questions there, but the main one was, I am an employee. I'm working for a company, and the company says we have to close for 21 days. Tell me a bit about my rights as an employee, and what happens if I get unpaid leave. What are my options to at least earn something of those 21 days?
Okay, so first of all, I want to start out by saying just a little bit of what the Minister of Employment and Labour Relations published. So this is a directive clarifying certain aspects with regards to the regulations to the Disaster Management Act 57 of 2002. So the directive was effective from the 26th of March 2020 for a period of 3 months, and it provides the following. So due to the lockdown, employees may be laid off temporarily and may not be paid. Whilst employers are encouraged to pay employees during the period, they are not obliged to do so. Where it is not economically possible for employers to pay employees, a special benefit fund has been set up under the auspices of the Unemployment Insurance Fund, which is the UIF, or the TERS as we now know it. And then a company which has to close due to its operations for a period of 3 months or less due to the COVID-19 pandemic will qualify for TERS benefit with a few provisions. Now, saying that, so that is the directive that we basically got from the government, and at the moment, that is all that we have to work for. So, just as you got a lot of questions, I also got a lot of questions from employees as well as employers asking, what can we do now? What is our rights as employers and what is our rights as employees? Because the government they didn't specify as to should or should not, or they didn't really enforce anything on any private companies in South Africa. This is why we have basically we're sitting in this situation at the moment. So just to clarify, so your first question was on employees that don't get paid and are forced basically to take unpaid leave. What are the options? So no employer, unfortunately, no employer in South Africa can force any employee to take unpaid leave unless they, or as an option, if the annual leave is exhausted or the employer is unwilling to pay their full salaries, for example, as special leave or an extra expense without working, without working. So what that basically means is if an employer can go to the employee and ask them whether they can take the unpaid leave for the period. If the employee says no, and the employer cannot afford to pay the salaries, then the next option would be unpaid leave, and then the UIF benefits would obviously then kick in. If the employee is sick, then they would be able to take sick leave benefits under the normal basic conditions of employment act provisions in the workplace. So if they get COVID-19, then the employer is obliged to give them sick leave, besides the other benefits that they're getting from the fund.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, so no, they cannot force, but they can negotiate. It is a negotiation, or it can be a chat between the employer and the employee. And unfortunately, most of the organizations in South Africa is asking their employees to rather take their annual leave because they don't know where the business will be in the next 3 months.
Great, perfect.
Okay, and then you also ask, I would also say, and just wanted to add the following, that employers should basically just be honest with their employees in terms of just sharing their financial constraints with the employees and explaining to them why it's impossible or why it's very difficult for them to not give them full salaries. Obviously, we are hoping that all the employers in South Africa gives their employees special leave or full salaries, specifically because we are in uncertain times. At the moment, there is an amount from the UIF that the government made available for employees that's on unpaid leave, should it come to that, so they can claim their normal UIF, or and when it gets to the UIF, it also gets a little bit tricky because there is a lot of UIF benefits split specifically to the COVID-19. So if I can just break it down a little bit, employers or employees, for instance, if they go the normal UIF route, they can complete a UI-19 form that the employer must give them, and they can go to the Department of Labor or apply online, labor.gov or uFiling. They can fill in the documents there, and then they can apply for the normal UIF or unemployment insurance fund under the normal regulation. So this is when an employee, for instance, the contract has ended, it's a fixed term contract, the contract has ended or terminated, etc. Then you would get the COVID-19, as they call it. I don't know. Yeah, it's the normal CODA claim that you can also that you can also basically put in, and that also gets dealt with under the Department of Labor, but that you will have to use a different code that is just to a reduction of working hours. And on your UI19, you'll have to put code 17, and you would also, in addition to the UI19 form, you also would have a UI 2.1 form, which is a fairly new form that they've created just for the COVID-19. I don't know whether I'm making sense, because there's quite a lot of information. I'm not sure where to cut and where to elaborate. So you just need to ask me some questions, maybe when I can.
Marizaan, but I think maybe it's a good idea that afterwards, if there are questions, the people can, reach out to you directly or just email you. I'm sure I can just leave some of your details after this interview if they have any questions.
Yeah. Most definitely. If it's for the employees.
Yeah, for the employees. Yeah.
For the
The
employees.
other question I wanted to ask you is, so can a company force you to take annual leave over these 21 days? So I'm an employee, I've got 15 days leave, and the company comes to me and says, you've got 15 days leave, you have to take your 20, I think it's 30 now, including the public holidays. You have to take these 13 annual leave days, and then you have nothing in December. Can they do that?
At the moment, like I said previously, so no employee can be forced to take their annual leave, but employers are requesting employees at the moment to rather take their annual leave. There is no legislation at the moment that prohibits the employers to ask employees to take annual leave at the moment. That is why we are seeing it at the moment. That's why employers are doing it. And legislatively, there's nothing wrong with it. Maybe morally, you would say maybe they could have given special leave or something like that, maybe something else. There's even employers that is saying, instead of giving you a 13th check at the end of the year, your bonus, I'm not going to give you a bonus. I'm going to use your bonus to be able to pay your salary for this month. And if we look at employers that is closing at the moment, I'm not referring to the essential services now, because they're operating as usual, they're making their profits. But if we look at employers that is closing at the moment, that don't have an income for this month and possibly for next month. Yeah. So they also in a predicament as to paying salaries. And we will get into that later with regards to what relief options is there for them. Because they can also, if they don't pay full salaries, they can also claim from the UIF. They can also claim 3,500 rand. There's also tax breaks and things like that for them at this stage. So there is, I feel employers must, before they make a decision, they must really see what is out there. They must really see, I would rather take a salary cut personally than having to lose my job after the COVID-19. So I think it gets to that, the negotiation between employer and employee with regards to the future at the company and even the future of the company. It's such 100%. A difficult time at this stage. Yeah.
No, 100%. So let's dive into the employer options. So I've got a company. I'm a carpenter. I've made cabinets. I've got 5-6 employees. I have to close for 21 days. I don't have money to pay them. What are my options?
So if you cannot afford to pay your employees, there is a few options that you can, again with negotiations, speak to your employees about. So you can negotiate maybe for later pay. This is just with regards to salaries. So you can maybe as an employer negotiate for later pay date. You can go to the banks to ask more credit, to advances on your credit facility that you have. You can temporarily lay off your employees. That is also part of the legislation. So you can decide, Marizaan will work this week, then Miles will work the next week, to be able to give everybody a fair chance to also work. That's a temporary layoff. Or you can say you only work 2 or 3 days a week. There's also the fact of salary cuts or demotions that you can also do. Obviously, that has to go through a retrenchment process. You don't have to specifically retrench, but you can, as part of that process, do salary cuts and things like that. And then also lay off maybe some of your temporary workers or fixed-term contract workers that you currently have on your payroll, just to and keep your permanent workers. I mean, this is from HR strategic side. If I should advise companies, then I mean this is the last resort that they can go to. As an employer, you can also apply to the TERS, which is the temporary relief scheme that the government just gazetted now. So that works on the normal UIF benefits that's capped on the earning threshold. If benefits available to the employee and the employer, so that we don't get confused. You can only apply for one. So that is because I asked a little bit of questions because there is so many and it's so confusing. Unfortunately, you can only apply for one. So you cannot apply for the 3,500 rand plus the normal UIF benefits, plus the sick or illness benefits, plus, you know, the temporary leave scheme. You as an employer must decide which route you are going for in terms of the UIF and then go that route, because they won't allow two types of things. And then you get the, I think you previously spoke about that, or the SMME, the normal debt relief fund from Ramaphosa, where they can assist about 75,000 small to medium-sized enterprises to help organizations. Then you have the DTI. There's always opportunities on Department of Trade and Industry. You can go check out their website. And then there's the CETAs, which I love. It's the skills development, according to the Skills Development Act. So all the employers pay 1% levy from the pay as you earn every month. And you can claim back by submitting an ATR, which is an annual training report. You can submit that. The deadline is the 30th of April 2020. You can submit that to your relevant CETA. I would actually strongly suggest all employers to consider at least to apply to the CETA. It's not too late. If you're not registered, you can still register yourself or you can find out by SARS which CETA you are, because each and every employer has a levy number, and that levy number is linked to a CETA, and there's about 21 CETAs in South Africa. So by doing the CETA grants or going the CETA way, you would at least get a percentage of your STL, your levy back that you've already spent. Then you also have the opportunity to apply to get graduates in or interns in or do learnerships at the company, bursaries and things like that. That will enable you to employ staff again either next year or later in the year. And then with doing learnerships, you also get about a 40,000 Rand tax rebate on your company tax back per year. And if you're doing an unemployed disabled learnership, then you would get about 50,000 Rand back or deductible from your company tax. So I mean, that is huge money that the company can that you could basically save from your bottom line. Everything might not pay immediately, but if you look long term, and then you would get that relief. SARS, obviously you would get immediate relief, because that is tax deductible from your pay as you earn every month.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
That was a mouthful.
Yeah, it was. There is so many options that's there.
Yeah.
That is all, yeah.
So tell me, Marizaan, so where do we get hold of you? I saw you also part of some group as well. Can you tell me a bit about that as well?
Yes. Unite360 South Africa as an HR consultancy business is part of the Impumelelo group. So Impumelelo group consists of a range, or I would say a lot of consultants, and the type of consultants that's under the Impumelelo group is strategic and business planning. They do fundraising for businesses. They do IT, so information technology, setting up systems, all of that. There is law services, there is risk and management services, there's health and safety services, there's accounting services, there is auditing services, there's quality management services, marketing services. So it's quite a range of services in a nutshell as part of the Impumelelo group.
Okay, perfect. So where do we get hold of Marizaan Bredenkamp, owner of 360 Unite? And where can we see, where can we see what you do?
Yes, so you can both Unite360 and Impumelelo group as Facebook pages. I personally don't have a business Instagram account as yet, but you can find us on Facebook, Unite360 South Africa, or Impumelelo group, your strategic partner. You can contact Unite360 on email at info@unite360.co.za. Our website is www.unite360.co.za, and then Impumelelo group is just www.impumelelogroup.com, if I'm not mistaken, and then also info@impumelelogroup.co.za.
Okay, cool. But I can find out that information if I go onto the website and add it.
Yes, and then you can, yeah.
Okay,
I hope I
Madam,
helped.
thanks so much. Yeah, of course, it was very, very informative. I think a lot of the things were addressed. What are the employees' rights? What are their options if they got unpaid leave? What are the employers' rights, and what options do they have if they find it economically challenging for the 21 days? So you touched on everything that we need to know. I think people need to contact you themselves to get the UIF pay as you earn details there, because for me, I lost you somewhere there because you were very high level for me. So I'm sure a lot of people can contact you for personal email, whatever.
Yeah, and just one more thing, the labor offices did close because there was too many people going to the labor offices to claim the UIF. So everybody can apply online on www.ufiling.co.za, or you can send an email to the COVID-19 email address and send your claims there. So just so that people know, because they would go to on Monday and then it will be closed because of the risk of spreading COVID-19. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So the Paarl labor office is closed from Monday. Done.
That is the notification that I got, that they closed it on Friday because there's just too many people. So the only opening, they appointed more staff to assist with the online processes.
Okay, cool. So they can go online. Okay, madam. Thanks so much. That was very, very valuable. I'll put on all the details when I put this post this. Thank you for chatting to us on day 2 of lockdown on a Saturday evening.
Thank you. Pleasure.
And good luck with your Unite360 company, and all the best, and wish you all the success.
Thank you, you too, and thank you to Miles, Manar, and also to the village guy. To both, thank you both for the opportunity just to be able to share information to Paarl and to the rest of South Africa.
Thank you, madam. Good night.
Pleasure.